Okay, welcome back to skimovement.com. I'm doing another quick tip here, and what this is targeted for is the lagging hip. I've addressed it in a lot of lessons, but it's also when one of the symptoms of it is catching the inside ski edge, the tail of it. It won't come in. It'll kind of look like this. When we're coming through a turn, this outside hip, furthest away from the camera, lags behind while this one advances, okay? And then this tail back here, the edge is stuck into the snow and cutting snow like that, okay? Hopefully that shows up. And so that's a problem we're going to try to solve. Okay, so there's a lot of variables involved. Some is the stance width. We can bring our stance width in a little more narrow. Let me show it again this way, see if it shows up good too. Okay, so we're coming through a turn towards the camera. Okay, if I want to turn to the right, okay, the skier that leaves this hip behind while this one moves out front ends up with a lagging hip. This hip is too far back, keeps the ski on edge, okay, as they try to turn the corner, and they're cutting snow with the inside of their ski trying to get it to come in, okay, and that's what we want to try to solve with this tip, okay. So one of the key things, even in a wedge, is to clearly just advance this hip in front and roll your ski around with the knee pointing out. Okay? So it's a matter of moving the hip in front and leading with the, I think I'm going to skip the hip thing. It's the iliac crest point, the pelvis, upper body, and everything stacked on it that needs to advance in the front. Okay, so a turn coming towards the camera will be in a wedge. We want to take this point, the iliac crest, and the shoulder stacked above it, above your feet, and all those above your feet, and move them ahead of the turn, like this. And then we can get that ski to blend in and smoothly rotate in. It naturally changes the edges. So watch this, okay? If I take this stance here, like I finished in a turn up, and this hip is back here, this edge is in the air, this edge is in the snow, okay? So if I take and just move this hip in front and the knee out a little bit, look what happens to the edge of the ski, okay? So moving back like this puts the ski on edge, the inside edge, which we don't want. Just by moving the hip in front and aligning the body, we get those skis on good edges so they'll both slide together around the turn, okay? So as we make these turns, we'll be coming through and watching for this hip to take the lead around this turn. So I'm wedging here, and I'm going to put this hip in the lead and rotate the knee out. Okay, so the dreaded lagging hip, which also gives you the dreaded ski edge tail that won't move forward. So there's some other components as far as how we're stacked on our skis. We want to be tilting down the hill as we make our moves. If we move into the back seat, that's where the problems get. Just by getting realigned, we can get flat skis and make these turns work a little better. I'll give you a few. This will be an example of what we're trying to solve. See this edge cutting in the snow? A little bit leaning back and not advancing our pelvis, the iliac point, on the side that we're going to go. Left going left, left iliac point taking the lead going left, right iliac going right. Here's a little more like what we want to do. And we can see from the ski-snow interaction that we've smeared snow from both skis to the outside by having those alignments right. Okay? So remember, right iliac point to the pelvis for a right turn leads, and for a left turn, the left iliac's going to take the lead. So there are a few other variables involved. Anticipating the slope change. When I'm coming across the slope this way, it's not very steep. But when I start turning down that way, then it becomes steep. So we have to anticipate that and move forward and down. So if you picture the slope angle is about like this iliac point has to move to the inside and down that angle. So we have to move down with that. Okay? So anticipating our body angles as we steer down the fall line is important. Another key that came up with Nicola today in a lesson was to look down the hill. Okay? Oftentimes if we get looking across, it's hard to initiate, plus our shoulders aren't pointing the right way. Okay? So if we take and look down, we're going to get a little bit of that counter and anticipation. Looking down the hill, our shoulders are there. And we can make those turns smear down the hill really nice. Okay, here's a couple of how we want to do it. Moving this hip pointer down. Similar to that. We can get away with not turning down the fall line, but as it becomes more of a parallel turn, steeper hills, it's really important to create that counter in the shoulders, which looking where you're going on the next turn will help a ton. I'm going to look down there. I'm in my wedge, but I'm still kind of looking there, so I'm creating this direction out of my body. If I stay here, it's really hard to get things to go without doing that. Make sense? Good. Hope so. Hope this audio comes out too. trying my shotgun microphone out here, but that's the nemesis. Catching inside edge, it won't come in. Trying to get those skis to match angles, and then this will take us all the way into more advanced turns too, on a steeper terrain. Get an edge change to go smooth, both skis moving at the same time. Gentle train too. We'll see if we can get a couple of demos of that too. Iliac point, taking the lead, moving this way, and makes sense. Working towards parallel skiing. Down. Iliac taking the lead. Gasping. Okay. So we can build from that, bringing that knee, steering that knee through the end. Bringing parallel skis to the finish, we can build up the hill and up into the initiation phase of the turn to try to get both skis to move parallel, all by advancing the iliac point, the shoulder and arms that ride over it, which rides over the feet, balances over the feet. Inside half balances over the inside, outside half balances over the outside. Okay, so we'll look at a couple parallel from the back side.
Okay, on this I'm going to show you actually where my demo is not so good. If you're watching the right arm, the closest to the camera, watch how it drops back and my hip won't advance. My shoulder, my elbow and hand drops back, and then I push it forward here. So this is what we're trying to fix. That's a remnant I still have in my skiing. So cheers. Thanks for coming back.
Finishing the turn, moving the iliac and shoulder. Okay. That should do it. Let's try that. If the audio doesn't come out, I'll voice over it. Thanks for coming back to skimovement.com.